All right, welcome in the NBA Tip-Off Show powered by WagerTalk.com as we've got a great slate of games here tonight in the association. It's been a great week so far. We're going to break a few of these games down for you here, come up with a couple of best bets, and as always, we'll hear what the Contrarian gods seem to think as they will look to see if they can get one Ronald Kabang to agree with them again here tonight as we welcome in the crew, the prop god Andy Lang, Ronald Kabang in the house, as is Rob Vino, looking to dive in to these games here tonight. And last night, the Contrarian gods liked the Miami Heat taking on the Orlando Magic. Tonight, well, they like the Orlando Magic now getting 8.5, heading and taking on the Milwaukee Bucks. Interestingly enough, here in this game, and I mean, how can anybody bet against the Milwaukee Bucks? Seem to be boat racing everyone. Well, Contrarian gods seem to think it's not a bad spot to do it. Andy Lang. So, fun game here. Question is there a prop we should be looking at in this game as well?
Yeah, I do think there is a prop that you can like in this game. The Orlando Magic are an interesting case because you look at their record and 16-10. It sounds really good, but they've lost 3 straight, and it's to Boston and Miami. And so, well, who'd they beat? Like, all right, Cleveland and Detroit. Ooh. They lost to Cleveland before that, Brooklyn, and then they have this big long list of wins on that big winning streak, and it includes 2 games against Washington, 1 against Charlotte, 1 against my Pacers, 2 against Chicago. So, beating an NBA team is it's not easy, but it's not the most impressive winning streak ever. And like you said, Joe, this Milwaukee team is absolutely boat racing people. And I'm actually going to look to Giannis under 6.5 assists. I've noticed this with Giannis when he gets into ass kicking mode, he just doesn't pass the ball. And why should he? Like, who's stopping this guy when he wants to go to the rim? And so I look at what he did last game, and I don't want to say he took the last game off, but it was against San Antonio. He only scores 11 points, but he had 16 assists. And he only went to the free throw line 6 times. So that tells me that was kind of a game where he was taken off a little bit, and there was really no reason for him to do a whole lot on offense. The rest of his team had it. But when you look at what he's done before that, it's just a lot of points and not nearly as many assists. The game against Houston, 3 assists. Against Detroit, 6. Against the Pacers, 3. Against Chicago, in an overtime game, 6. And you look at those point totals, 32, 64, 22, 26. So I think Giannis kind of took a little bit off on the last game. Tonight, I think he comes out really strong against a tough Eastern Conference team. I think there's a lot of points and not very many assists. So I'll take Giannis under 6.5 assists, best player prop in this game.
All right, good stuff there. And RC in the house, Ronald Kabang. Nobody is in tune with the Contrarian gods like Ronald Kabang has been. So they liked Miami last night in a good spot there. They faded Orlando, but they like Orlando here tonight. Milwaukee, it feels like, has been playing home games for like a month now. I do believe this is their final home game. Then they got to hit the road. They are wheeling a little bit here, this Orlando Magic team. But is this the good buy low spot for them, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I know, Andy talked about, who the Magic have beaten. I'm not really impressed with who the Bucks have beaten either in this current win streak. Obviously they've what was it, 5-game winning streak now. None of these teams that they've played are actually good defensive teams, and the Magic, I think they're top 5 in the league in defensive rating.
Mm-hmm.
I know the Rockets are a pretty decent defense, but they've been playing really good defense at home, not on the road, and they were on the road in that game that the Bucks beat them. For me, obviously, the defense is a key factor in this one. I think it's an offensive team versus defensive team because the Bucks, their defense is terrible themselves, right? They've allowed 7 straight opponents to go over their team total. I know the Magic on the second leg of back-to-back games, they got travel involved as well. They got smacked yesterday by the Heat. It definitely wasn't as close as the final score suggested, but for me, I think this is sort of a matchup play for me. I think the Magic do match up with this Bucks team. I looked at how they do against teams that allow 115 points or more per game. 8-3 straight up, 9-2 against the spread so far this season. So they do have sort of this thing against teams who don't play well defensively. Obviously, they did beat the Bucks earlier this season. I know Lillard didn't play that game. Both teams seem to be going in opposite directions, but for like I said, from a matchup perspective, it seems like the Magic do well against lesser defenses and struggle against better defenses. They're not a really efficient offense, so if they're able to score and continue to play solid defense, that is something that you can look at in this game here. One more thing that I looked at, one of the databases that I use, the Bucks are 2-7 against the spread as favorites of 5 or more points against team who average a pace of less than 102. So these slower paced teams, the Bucks tend to struggle against. So for me, I gotta side with the contrarian guys tonight.
Oh, that's good news there. When you look at it here, the Bucks on this winning streak have done a really good job of speeding everyone up. They couldn't speed Miami up last time, which had went a long way as to why they couldn't get it done, even though they didn't have Lillard. Yeah, they weren't moving as quickly either, Rob Vino. So 8.5 feels like a lot for a team that can certainly turn up the heat defensively here. What are you thinking tonight in this one?
Yeah, I don't know that anybody turns up the heat defensively against Milwaukee, Joe. They're going to do what they do. Can you go with them? Becomes the question. Real quick here, before I get into this, Ronald, do me a favor, buddy. In your database, just because I didn't have this number when I came on and I was interested. Bucks at home this season versus unrested opponents. Just real quick, the audience can get that as well. A couple of things here, Joe. Obviously, Orlando played Miami last night. The minutes were spread out, though. That's the beauty of Orlando. They're so deep that they don't have to kill anybody with minutes. So I don't think minutes are a problem here or fatigue is a problem for Orlando. What I did find is one time this season, they went back to back from a home game to a road game. It happened the start of this month, December 1st and 2nd. They won the home game against Washington, but then they went to high-flying Brooklyn, who kind of plays the same way Milwaukee does with less size, and they got beat 129-101. It doesn't bode well, because like we said earlier, turn up the defense. They couldn't turn it up against Brooklyn that night. Not sure they can slow Milwaukee down either. They're 2-6 against the spread last 8 games. Obviously, they've been in a bit of a slide. Maybe that's because the odds maker has compensated for their hot start. And certainly those numbers do come back around full circle in time. The Bucks home schedule, like you mentioned, have been on the road all month. This is like the 9th home game in a row, and they've been spread out so that the Bucks don't have to worry about minutes. It's only their 3rd game in 5 nights. I'm really tempted to be on Orlando just because the price looks big to me, and to the point that Ronald made earlier, their defense, I feel like they're this kind of team that says we can outscore the other guy. Defense is optional at times during the game if, in fact, we need to do it. We don't need to do it for 48, but if we need to, we will. For that reason, you might look at Orlando. But I do think that the 112-97 game loss that Milwaukee had to Orlando comes into play here. Way back then, the Bucks were horrendous. I remember Ski being on this show and said the Bucks have no business laying points to anybody. And at that point in time, he was right. Now they're laying 8.5, and we're considering them. I don't want to tick off the contrarian gods, but they haven't been so good this year when I've been on the show. So I'm going to go against them, and I'll take Milwaukee here over the Magic.
All right, Glenn, that's your own pace. Did you have those numbers there, RC? Did you come up with it?
Yeah, so you said Bucks at home against unrested opponents, 2-0 straight up, 1-1 against the spread. So they beat the Bulls, but didn't cover the 9.5 points against them, and then they beat the Pistons. The Bucks had 2 days of rest, and they beat the Pistons by 32 as 16.5-point favorites.
Everyone beats them by 32, Ronald.
I was going to say, I'm pretty sure the 4 of us could beat them by 32 here. So, yeah, we're pretty good to go there.
Yeah.
There you go. See, instant numbers. That's what it is all about. So the contrarian gods taking a look at Milwaukee and Orlando. Let's take a look at a featured matchup here tonight. And boy, oh boy, is this one intriguing, huh? The Memphis Grizzlies at home, taking on the Indiana Pacers. Been looking forward, many have been looking forward, of course, to this big matchup with Ja Morant taking on Halliburton here. Problem is the Pacers, and Andy knows this better than anybody. Andy, the Pacers not going to play any defense. Won't play any defense. Memphis, on the other hand, they've been playing some defense here. So the question is, and it's not a 260 total. You would have thought we would have been there at this point, but it's not. And the Pacers aren't exactly, shall we say, setting the world on fire. So what gives in this game, and who should we look at?
Well, I talked about how I was worried about the Pacers and the Lakers coming out of the in-season tournament, and I think last time I was on the show, and I took the Knicks as a dog against the Lakers, and they didn't even need the points they won. So, as a Pacers fan, I was glad to see them finally kind of get off the schneid there and have a really nice win last night. And even though this is a back-to-back situation for the Pacers, I was watching that game intently because I had a player prop on the Pacers, and their starters did not need to play full minutes. They had nobody over 28 minutes in their starting lineup. So this isn't like you have all the starters who played, 35 minutes last night. So I think you might be able to, I think it could be a little overblown on it for the back-to-back situation, but there was kind of a play I was really interested in. I was really surprised to see Desmond Bane still at 4.5 rebounds. It doesn't sound like a big number, but he just really hasn't been getting there. It's not really his job on the team. And now with Ja Morant back, that's another really active athletic body. So you look at what Desmond Bane has done recently. He's gone under 4.5 rebounds in 6 out of 8 games. He only had 1 rebound in 2 straight games. And when you look at what happened against the Pelicans in that, really amazing comeback, yeah, but Ja Morant was sitting there with 6 rebounds. Jackson had 6 rebounds. Williams had 7 rebounds, and Bane in the starting lineup is only there with 1 rebound. The bench chipped in quite a few. So that's 2 games in a row that he's not really getting near his 4.5 rebounds. I'll keep taking it again. I've been riding Buddy Hield under his rebounds. He's not been going over. We cashed another one last night. I'm actually going to stay off of Buddy Hield tonight because he's hit it so many games in a row. I feel like he's getting ready to go over, and the books have added some juice to it. But I think you can play Desmond Bane under his rebounds for the next few games until the books adjust and it moves down to 3.5.
All right, good stuff there. We've got an interesting spot here. RC, whether it be total or side you're going to look at, keeping in mind that that first game back for Ja against New Orleans was in New Orleans. This will be his first home game, and welcoming in maybe a not as spry a Indiana team. I can't wait to see how this comes out. It does look like it opened up at 4, and it looks like the money has come in on Indiana, but what are we thinking we're going to get here tonight?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the Pacers on the second leg of back-to-back games. I looked at how they do in that situation. 1-3 straight up and against the spread in that spot. Also 3-1 to the over. But I mean, when you look at the Pacers, like you guys said, the only way you can look is towards an over here. I think before Ja came back, the Grizzlies were actually the worst offensive rated team in the league. Obviously, him coming back is gonna get their offensive efficiency back and up to what it used to be. Typically, I mean, you see when the key player comes back on the first game, they tend to struggle, but we didn't see that with Ja. And I think it might be just a situation where they know they dug a hole without him, and they got to climb back out right now. And so they got to pick up, as much momentum as they can off of that first win with him. And I think it's going to start on the offensive side of the ball, to be honest. And I think, Andy brought up Bane and the rebounds prop, but I think one thing that I could see with Bane as well. He got his typical whatever 9 threes shot. He didn't
Mhm.
make a high percentage, but at the same time, it seemed like those shots were a little bit more open than he's used to, and that has to do with Ja coming back and creating that space for this team. So for me, I did like Ja and his assist in that first game back. I didn't think he was gonna score at the rate that he did, but I think he's gonna continue to really provide a boost for this Grizzlies offense for the most part. And I think another way to look at Ja is to his assists again. I think he's creating a lot of offense for this team. I think the last time we saw his assist prop in the last game was a 6.5. I don't know if it's at that number again, but I definitely think he gets up there, up and over his assist prop. My best bet is actually on this game, so I'll dive deeper into it a little bit more later.
All right, good stuff there as they welcome back John Morant here. And while they were Vino, one of the worst offensive teams, quietly they were one of the better defensive teams in transition, this Memphis squad. And boy, nobody likes to get out in transition more than Indiana. So what gives here tonight at home in Memphis in this game?
Well, I'll just put some numbers to what you and Ronald have been saying about Memphis picking it up from an offensive efficiency standpoint. They were dead last, 103.2 offensive efficiency number prior to Ja's return. And in that first game, it went from 103.2 to 118.6. It's not going to stay at 118.6, obviously, but they scored 115 points and only 82 shots. So he makes a difference. The amount of easy shots that you get against the Pacers only increases your offensive efficiency. But again, Joe, I'm going to say that, like Milwaukee, I just don't know that you defend against it's not half court defense against the Pacers. You did mention transition and you hope that they get back, but everybody's tried this against Indiana and they just continue to score. So Memphis is the type of team that doesn't mind getting caught up in a track meet with Indiana. I think Memphis probably feels like they're better on the boards. Memphis probably feels like, with Ja back in front of the home crowd, that they could outscore this team. And so from a totals perspective, you're definitely looking over. I think you said you're surprised it hasn't hit 260 yet at 247 or whatever it is. It looks like a bargain price in this particular game. Side perspective, I don't know if folks expect that there's going to be a drop-off because the high for Memphis was so high the other night that it just can't possibly remain that high. But let's not forget, they were behind 24 points in that game. It's not like they went wire to wire against that team. They weren't playing real well, and then he took over second half. I've tried to look at this from a first half perspective. I was going to ride the home court, the excitement with Memphis, maybe get off to a quick start. Indiana's not a great first half team, and I still think that might be a good way to lean here. Memphis first half was pretty cheap, and I think that they can get out and get Indiana in the first half. So that's probably the way I would look, Joe, but I think the primary look here would have to be over the total.
All right, Vino, there you go. We've got it's going to be a fun one to watch for sure with Memphis and Indiana here tonight, but we are not done. I do want to also remind you guys, those of you joining us here for the very first time, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, become part of the WagerTalk TV family, as we've got plenty of content on a whole lot of games coming up here over the next couple of days, all week long. Bowl games, NBA games, college basketball games, NHL, NFL. We have got you covered. So go ahead, hit that subscribe button. Those of you joining us live here today on the broadcast, we certainly appreciate you guys. Go ahead, hit that thumbs up, hit that like button for us. We would certainly appreciate it as we get ready to talk a total here today in our overtime segment. And I guess depending on how you're going to look at this one, 236.5 is either a bargain or it's not even, they ain't even going to sniff this. So it's one or the other here. Feast or famine with the Clippers and OKC. I do know it was 233, right around that on the open. So certainly the market has been betting it up, which means, Andy Lang, there is opportunities in this game to either fade or back some props here. How are we looking at this game here tonight?
Well, I was hoping we get clarity on the 4:30 injury report, and it just doesn't look like we're going to get it. I think this is a perfect time to not play Kawhi and Paul George. 9-game winning streak, back-to-back. They got Boston coming up. Unfortunately, we're just not going to know. So I'm with you. This could be way over, way under. I have a best bet player prop on this one. I'll do my best bet. Like, I don't think it's a bad idea to take Oklahoma City over 121.5. I don't think Kawhi Leonard and Paul George would play in this one, especially because Kawhi got added a little bit later in the day. And I got to say, really lame for these teams now when they're trying to like, well, we don't know if this guy's going to play. We're going to hide. They just list illness. Like, you guys could
Mm.
be a little bit more creative. Like you got to hand it to LeBron James. He got ruled out today with a left ankle peroneal tendinopathy. Now that's how you rule a guy out. That's a
Yes.
real life situation. I don't know how many times I've had a tendinopathy or whatever it is. So I think caution is the best. Cautious. You just got to be cautious with this game. So I honestly, right now, until you get clarity on Kawhi and Paul George from a side in total, I think it's a stay away.
All right. Be very careful, Andy thinks here. How about you, RC? Knowing what you know about these two teams. I mean, listen, Clippers have shown, hey, you want to run? We'll run. We'll outscore you. OKC is certainly capable of doing their part in this. Is it you agree with the market with the over move so far?
I mean, breaking down this game earlier, I was thinking that it's going in the wrong direction. I do think that maybe with the number up at 236.5, it might be time to maybe take a take a little piece of the under there. If I look at this 9-game winning streak, right, they've gone over their team total in 6 of their last 7 games. So it seems like their offense is clicking, but it's been a while since they've actually faced a team that plays solid defense. The last time they faced a top 10 defense was against the Nuggets. This was December 6th. And that was the second game of during this 9-game winning streak, and they flew under that total by about 16 points or so. Even during this winning streak, the Clippers continue to be a slower paced team, and they've been a top 10 defensive rated team themselves. So they're playing defense. Being able to continue to play a slow pace against teams like the Pacers, the Kings, and Mavs in this winning streak. That tells me that they're able to at least, not control the pace somewhat, right? They're not going, super duper slow like they normally would, but they're at least controlling the pace at certain points of the game, especially when they had the lead. On the Thunder side, they're the third best defensive rated team in the league on the season. I don't see the Clippers being as efficient offensively as we've seen them during this winning streak. This is also the second leg of back-to-back games for the Clippers as well. To me, the Thunder, just looking at them and how they've done the last 2 games, they've gone under in 2 straight as a favorite. They've held their opponents under their team total in 10 of the last 14 situations. And with the Clippers, like I said, playing some underrated defense. I don't think people even know that they're a top 10 defensive rated team during this time frame. I can only look towards the under in this one.
All right, looking towards the under here. Vino, what are you thinking, man? Is it just over or pass, or do you think there's any worth look at maybe under the 236.5 here?
Well, let's take a look, and let's use the assumption that Andy Lang had that it's the perfect night to rest Paul George and Kawhi. If that happens, immediately the 2 best defensive players they have are off the floor. And immediately, if that happens, that means Russ gets more minutes. And I just want to see Russ and James Harden on the floor at the same time, just for viewers' sake. Unless James Harden puts the complete brakes on this team, you start looking at who they're going to play tonight, and it's a running lineup. It's going to be Terrence Mann. It's going to be Russell Westbrook. It's going to be Norman Powell. Those are not guys that want to go slow, and OKC won't go slow. I tried, if this was just a couple points lower, Joe, I would have gotten there because I wanted to be creative and just my thought process being that there's going to be a bunch of possessions in this game, a bunch more than a normal Clippers game. I thought, how about we play the Clippers, which would be the lower team total, play that over. They're going to get a bunch of shots up. They still have shot makers on that team. OKC has given up. The Clipper team total, by the way, right now is 115. OKC has given up over 115 in 5 of their last 7. So it's not like it's a number that can't be eclipsed in a game where, if Oklahoma City runs off to 127, 130 in that area, then the loser certainly can get over 115. It was a creative way to look at it. I just think that if George and Kawhi don't go, the amount of defense that the Clippers, lose with those 2 guys is immense, and the amount of speed that takes its place. Because remember, it's not just Harden, George, and Kawhi on the floor at the same time makes tempo really slow. get rid of those two guys, insert Russ, insert Norman Powell. It's a different team. It's a different look. I'm going to say, as far as the segment goes, I would probably look over. And maybe if you really want to be creative, I think the Clippers have a shot to get over the number in this game, but I think Oklahoma City wins.
All right. Thinking OKC wins, though, and keep an eye on who's rolling out, who's not rolling out in that game there. It should be fun one way or the other, but we do have a whole lot of interesting dogs that could very well be barking here tonight. So, Robert, let's take a look at what we got here.
That's my dog. That's my dog. That's my dog. That's my dog. And anybody got to say anything, you let me know. That's my dog.
All right, let's check them out. The Cavs, we got the Jazz, the Pacers, Spurs, we got the Clippers, the Magic, Lakers there, as well as, shocker, the Washington Wizards. Noticeably absent, the Detroit Pistons, but that's a story for another day here. Andy, talk to us here, my man. Some interesting spots on this board. Is there a dog that sticks out to you here?
Yeah, here we go with the injury report roulette. I'm going to go and try and fade a team, and I'm going to roll the dice here a little bit, Joe, that the New Orleans Pelicans are sitting a couple guys. I've got Herb Jones, Zion, and Valanciunas all questionable. They've been questionable all day. If even a couple of them sit, that really, really depletes that starting lineup. And take the Cleveland Cavaliers, who have won 3 in a row, despite missing Mobley, despite missing Sexton, despite Donovan Mitchell not really wanting to be there. And they're not terrible wins. Atlanta, that's a decent win. Houston's a pretty decent team. They get that win in overtime. They take care of business against Utah, and this is their 4th home game in a row. I know they're coming off of a back-to-back, but if New Orleans decides to arrest these guys, then I think you're all of a sudden sitting on a really nice number on Cleveland that could look for 4 home wins in a row. So it's really based on the injury report here. If you told me the Pelicans were full strength against Cleveland, I would stay away. But I think at least 1, probably 2, maybe even 3 of these guys are going to sit out. So I'll take Cleveland plus 3.5.
All right, there you go. Got a vote for the Cavs here to get them done, getting that 3.5 RC. How about you, man? Some interesting dogs here. Which one's barking for you tonight?
Yeah, I want to go back to what we talked about during the contrarian section. I do think that the Magic is probably the best dog to cover tonight. I talked about it. Talked about some of the interesting things about the Bucks versus slow paced teams and Bucks versus teams that play some solid defense. So for me, I think this Magic team get that plus 8.5. I think that's the way to go here.
Ooh, love it. All right, Vino. I don't see. Is there a pick 'em on the board? Nope. So that means you've got to pick a dog. Getting a few here. Which one is barking for you here tonight on the card?
Come on, Joe. It's the Pistons. Are you kidding me? I'll take the Jazz. Plus
no.
2.
Oh, yo. I was going to say the Pistons ain't on.
No. That's the reason. It's the Pistons.
Yep.
But let me just add a little to this real quick. We were just in this spot about a week and a half ago, maybe less, where the Jazz were in back-to-back situation, and they went to Portland. I was actually on the show that day. They were plus 4.5. It was back-to-back, so Markkanen didn't play. Steam on Portland all day long. Portland. It was the first time they were a favorite all season long. What happened? Utah shorthanded, came in and beat them 122-114. The same thing. I could see the same exact thing happening here. Larry Markkanen is not going to play. All right. The Jazz did give extra effort last night. Colin Sexton and oh my goodness, the other ex-Cavalier that I'm not thinking of right now really wanted to win that game. Probably Larry Markkanen. They admitted that they wanted to win that game, but in the fourth quarter, it got away from them a little bit. But again, you're playing a team that doesn't get into the favorites role. The Jazz have been in the same exact spot very recently and pulled off the win. I think they probably do it again, and what's likely to be a high-scoring affair. If you're looking to bet anything with total or team total here, the Jazz did put up 122 that night, again, without Markkanen. And here, their team total has been decreased all the way down to 116.5. Detroit can give up 116.5 in 3.5 quarters. So I think the Jazz +2 is the best dog. So that's my dog.
All right, let me just go on record and say this here now. If this friggin' Pistons team cannot take advantage of what is in front of them right now, being well rested, going up, like Vino said, against the Utah team that sucks on the road and just had a big battle the night before, third game in 4 now. If they can't take advantage of this, then I don't know what the win total is for the season, but their ass ain't winning another game for the rest of the season. It is over. They'll set every record known to mankind in the NBA for being terrible here. So just unbelievable.
And Joe, real quick,
24. I mean, Vino, you ain't going to get hand-fed another better spot than the one they're in right now tonight.
No, and I think
probably lose
Portland
by
had
30.
that almost the exact same spot, maybe not with as much rest. Portland had that spot, but it is interesting that Cade Cunningham is the guy I was reading today, walking around the locker room, telling everybody it's okay, it's okay. It's not okay, Cade. Your team is not very good, and I don't think Monty Williams knows what to do with it.
Yeah, I think Monty is maybe in over his head here, because if Cade thinks that's okay, yikes, then you'll have no problem setting the record for the worst NBA team in the history of the game. Congratulations. You got to be known for something, I guess. Oh, God, it's going to be ugly. All right, that leaves us, of course, now with some best bets here for the guys across the board. Again, not the biggest of cards here, but certainly some intriguing spots. Scheduling is what it is all about, and Andy Lang is going to be first up here. We throw 60 seconds on the clock. Andy, do whatever the hell you want with it. Drop us a best bet somewhere in that 60 seconds, man. Who are you looking at tonight?
Well, Joe, first and foremost, it is my birthday this weekend. So, of course, we're celebrating in a multitude of ways. And what better way to celebrate with a promo code? Birthday30. Promo code Birthday30 takes $30 off a 7-day pass. We joke, but this is a really great time to jump on board. We're on fire. NFL 31-11 the last 30 days, 13-4 in college football this year, 5-0 in NHL and NBA combined. And Joe, we are 4-0 today already in what sport, Joe? What sport are we 4-0 in? Darts, that's right. Darts. The Darts World Championship. 13-6 this week. We're already 13-6 this week. This tournament goes on for a couple more weeks, so grab it. I know I've used up a bunch of my time. Give me Josh Giddey over 21.5 points, rebounds, and assists, no matter who the Clippers play. I think he goes over 32 against Memphis, 30 against Sacramento, 22 against Golden State. He's going to have a great night. Giddey over PRA tonight.
Giddy up, people. All right, birthday weekend there. Opportunity, guys, to hop on board with Andy. Take advantage of it there while we go to RC here tonight. All right, you hinted towards it. You got 60 seconds. Break down that best bet for us here.
Yeah, before I go to that game, I do want to talk about the Jazz and the Pistons real quick. The Jazz opened up as road favorites. The last time they were a road favorite, they lost to the Blazers by 16 points. So I'm not saying that the Pistons are going to win. Yeah, hey, they got a chance. They got a chance. Yep. I saw this Pacers game against the Grizzlies. Pacers on the second leg of back-to-back games, 1-3 straight up and against the spread. I mentioned that earlier. All four of their opponents in that situation went up and over their team total. Prior to yesterday's game, the Hornets, they've limited 5 straight opponents to under their team total. Over their team total as well. Obviously, the Hornets struggled yesterday, but they've been struggling offensively without LaMelo, so that wasn't a big deal to me. If we look at the Pacers as road dogs, 4-5 straight up and against the spread, but again, the main focus for me, their opponent's team total, 8-1 to the over, allowing 136.3 points per game. None of those games went into OT. You look at the Grizzlies side, first game back with Ja, 60 points in the paint against a team, the Pelicans team, that allowed 48.3. Now they're facing a Pacers team that allows the most in the paint per game, 62.2. I like Grizzlies up and over their team total, 224.5 or 225.
All right. Like it. Take a look here, guys. Plenty of opportunities on this card here tonight in the NBA. And Rob Vino, you know the routine here, my man. I know you got a best bet. Break it down for us. Where you looking to go here tonight on the card?
Well, hopefully we can put together a little parlay here because Ronald likes one side of this game. I don't necessarily like the opposite side, but I do like a piece of this game, so we can have a little RV, RC, or I'll take the back end RC, RV parlay. Doesn't matter to me. I'll take that seat to Ronald. But I like the Bucks team total here over 123.5, Joe. They can get over that and still not cover. They did that a lot early on, but 123.5 just seems so small. I talked earlier about Orlando's only been in this situation once, back-to-backs with a game at home and then go on the road, give up 129 to Brooklyn, a team that plays aesthetically the same way that the Bucks do with less size. The Bucks have gone over 123.5 at home this month because they played every game at home. 7 of 8 times they've gotten over 123.5. I don't see why they can't do it here. They're the 5th best three-point shooting team in the league right now. In Orlando, the last couple nights, 51%, 47%, 42% allowed from 3. They're giving it up. Give me the Bucks team total over 123.5.
All right. Like it up and over here. So a whole lot of different ways, guys, to cash a few tickets here tonight. Let's take a look to recap as the Grizz team total over 124.5 for RC. Vino, he likes that Bucks team total over 123.5 for the birthday boy this weekend, Andy Lang. Josh Giddey over 21.5. His points, his rebounds, his assists, all solid bet, solid looks here on what is going to be a great night in the NBA. All right, if you haven't done so already, hit that like button. Make sure you hit the subscribe button here if you're watching us on replay and this is the first time you're seeing us. We certainly appreciate you guys hanging out with us here. We've got much more still to get to here before the weekend. Plenty more NBA, college hoops, bowl games, of course, week 16 in the NFL as well kicks off tonight. All 3 of these guys at WagerTalk.com. They got their best bets locked and loaded here, so check them out. Take advantage. No reason not to make it a very profitable Thursday here, and we will certainly do our part. So on behalf of Andy, RC, RV, we appreciate the time, guys. Best of luck with all your plays, and go ahead. Click on that video on your screen right now. Check out all the other top 10, top 20, top 25 games coming up this weekend. We've got you covered with it all, plus more best bets. Good luck with all your plays. We'll see you again tomorrow.